Well, hello, sports fans, and welcome back to Sports on the Spot. My name is Willie Charger, and today I've got Nick James here. Together, we're going to be talking about the world of sports, particularly the National Football League. Lenny has decided to take an extended week off and will not come back for a few more days, and Ronnie is still in limbo. But both of them will be joining us with their Lenny Lowdown and Ronnie Rundown later on. Nick, a lot of stuff happened in the sports world over this past few days. Anything stand out to you?
Willie, I was interested to see what you thought about Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma and going to USC, also causing Rattler to leave Oklahoma. A lot of stuff with him potentially going to LSU, him denying that, and now he's going to USC. Is this a good hire, Willie?
As a UCLA fan, I'm a little bit concerned about this new hire because this guy, Riley, apparently is a great recruiter. And in college football, to have a lot of success, you have to be a great recruiter. So I think the USC might have made a really, really good choice in this case. Switching gears, I did want to bring up my NBA top five for this week. Not much has changed in the top five. I still have the Phoenix Suns at number one. They've got a 13-game winning streak going on. Number two, it's really close behind are the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry hit 7 straight three-pointers against the Clippers yesterday in their big win. And if he keeps this up, he's definitely going to be the MVP. He's got 100 threes in less than 20 games. At number three, I have the Brooklyn team. They're still getting their act together. And then the Washington Wizards, I still have a number four, and the Utah Jazz number five. So, of course, these standings are going to be changing as the week go on, but that's where they are right now.
A lot of West Coast teams in that top
five. Well, 3 of the 5 are from the West Coast, but I don't think that's necessarily going to play out throughout the season, but we'll see what happens. Okay, and now it's time for the Lenny Lowdown. So take it away, Lenny.
Well, this week I'm reporting from Rotterdam, of all places, where I'm attending a conference on mathematics. So I got math on my mind. So, speaking of which, kids complain about having to learn math, right? They say they'll never use it in real life and all that. But of course we know that math is used to make our lives better in almost every aspect because it's foundational to engineering, science, construction, even our financial system. So my question is, why don't we use mathematics to make our sports lives better? Through mathematics, our sports could be made far more interesting and exciting. Now, I know I sound like a brainiac or something, but hear me out, because the formula I propose is deceptively simple. It's based on the mathematical operation of multiplication, also known as timesies. The idea would be to simply double a number of key values. For example, in football, a touchdown would be worth 12 points, and a field goal 6. Right there, the enjoyment of your weekends is going to double, because your team will score twice as many points. The number of downs would double from 4 to 8. With 8 downs, never again would your team have to punt on 3rd. Although granted, now and then they might have to punt on 7th. Now, in baseball, a batter would get 6 strikes. Now imagine your favorite player batting 600. Heck, the Mendoza line would now be at 400? But defense would get a boost too. A double play would count as, that's right, a quadruple play. How exciting would a quadruple play be? We could also incorporate division into the mix. That means that for some rules, instead of doubling the numbers, we'll cut them in half. For example, the height of an NBA hoop would be cut in half to 5 feet, which, by the way, would have the added benefit of opening up NBA play to little people, making it a more diverse and inclusive sport. All this just by applying some simple arithmetic. See, kids? But that's just a start. Next week, I'll talk about the next step, using calculus and trigonometry to make sports even more fun. Stay tuned.
Hey, well, thanks for that, Lenny. Nick, I wanted to spend some time talking about the NFL and particularly talk about what happened to the Chargers in their depressing loss to the Broncos yesterday in Denver. There really wasn't a lot to see that was very positive for the Chargers, especially in that first half. I think they only had 6 offensive plays in the first quarter, while Denver was just moving the ball up and down the field. Those 3-and-outs weren't cutting it in the first quarter. The offensive line seemed to be in disarray. Herbert really didn't have a lot of time to survey the field, and the running game just really didn't seem to get off the ground. The one highlight was that Derwin James interception towards the end of the first half that gave the Chargers good field position. And despite the fact they played pretty miserably in the first half, they were only down 14-7 after Herbert marched the team down the field. So I was a little optimistic at the half, but my optimism quickly faded in the third quarter. Nick, what to make about the Chargers' loss yesterday?
It's a game we should have won for sure. I went into it after a bad slate of morning games with high hopes that, hey, the Chargers would kind of keep things rolling, and they keep playing to their competition for Brandon Staley being a defensive coach, the genius he was for the Rams. It's starting to look like a cheap hire. We're not getting any better on defense with him, and our offense is stagnant. As you mentioned, we had 2 3-and-outs to start the game. Absolutely nothing going on. They dominated time of possession, and we just got ran over again by Javonte Williams.
You mentioned their bad defense. It was terrible, especially on third down. Denver made like 8 out of 11 third downs, and they weren't like 3rd and 1. They were 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 10. They were terrible, especially when it comes to not only covering the receivers but tackling. That cornerback Trevon Campbell that filled in for Sanjay Samuel was terrible. He couldn't tackle, he couldn't cover, and the guys that filled in the offensive line with Filer out, they didn't really. That guy Kelimenter or whatever his name is, he didn't do too good either. So when your quarterback has to spend half the game just trying to, evade the defensive lineman, you got trouble.
Yeah, it was just tough to watch all around, and it's like I was thinking one of these games we had to win, kind of going into the tail end of the season with everybody at 6-5, 5-6. It's still anyone's game, and this is where we need to really kind of start separating from the pack.
I mean, you're right. It was a missed opportunity for them to win. Would have put them at 7-4, kind of, back in the division lead, and given it some more breathing room. As it is, like you say, they're 6-5, and they're currently in the number 3 spot. We're going to talk about the playoffs in a bit, but they're currently in number 3 wildcard spot in the AFC. Even though there's other teams that are also 6-5, they've got a better division record over the Raiders and Denver. So as long as they hold on to their spot, and we got 5 games to go, I believe. At least they're still in, and that's just trying to stay positive in that regard. Herbert, another 300-yard passing game, but he did have 2 picks. That second one, that pick six wasn't his fault. Bounced off Eckler's shoulder pad. I read later that there was some miscommunication. Eckler zigged when he should have zagged, and he just got that. That's what happened. So we'll have to just stay positive. I'm staying positive, but I know some people are already jumping off the bandwagon. I was reading some of the Charger forums, and not only were they going after the defensive coordinator, some of them were actually questioning their new coach too. So it's funny what happens when you start to lose a few games. So people turn really quick.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing my friends and I were talking about was, how did Joe Lombardi go from a really crappy Lions team to getting this sweet job? I mean, he's not helping us at all. We need to try to get the enemy over there or something for next year, because I feel like we just have these drives that we look so good on, and then all of a sudden we stall out, and that pick six you mentioned, at that point the game was over. I just switched over to red zone.
Well, it's not over for some of the teams as far as their NFL playoff chances are concerned. I was looking at the playoff picture just this morning, and if it started right now, the Chargers, I mentioned, number 3 wild card. The number 2 would be the Bills in the AFC. The number 1 wild card would be the Cincinnati Bengals. They seem to be a really hot team. Of course, the division leaders, you got Kansas City, New England, Baltimore, and Tennessee. So that's the ASA picture right now. NFC, the Rams, they're still holding on to that number one wild card, even though they had another loss, their third in a row. The 49ers, they're the number two wild card. I don't know how they're doing it, but Garoppolo, he's really seems to be turning things around. And then the Vikings, despite their loss, they're still in the wild card chase at number three. Division leaders, of course, Arizona, Green Bay, the Buccaneers, and Dallas. They're all in pretty good shape. What do you make of the playoff picture, Nick? You think any of these teams are going to stumble before the games actually begin?
Well, in the AFC, it's super, super tight. Obviously, the Ravens have a half game on the Patriots, but then after that, it's just within 2 games any direction. And then everyone in the hunt has 5 or 6 wins. So it's a little more tight in the AFC. I'm sure some of these teams are going to stumble. I'm hoping it's not the Chargers. I think the Ravens will start stumbling. I think the Bengals will end up winning that division. And Monday night's game, against the Patriots and the Bills, that's going to have a lot to do with the AFC playoff picture. The NFC, the Cardinals kind of seem to be running away with it, or I should say the NFC West seems to be running away with it, but none of the other teams really over there besides the Packers, whether they make it in or not, it's not really like I think they can have a chance. For the AFC, they're just beating up on each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in the AFC that right now are not in, but still look like they might make it. I mean, I'm talking about the Raiders. So we'll see about what happens when everything finally settles. What about your upcoming picks for the weekend, Nick? Can you give us some info on that?
Yeah, well, this week we're going to mix it up a little. Instead of covering 4 games, we're going to switch it to my lock of the week and my upset. For everyone paying attention, I did go 2-2 again last week, 17-15 on the season. We started off so good, and then I just was a little ambitious with some of these Lions picks, but hopefully 2-0 coming up this week. So my lock, Willie, for this week is going to be the Cardinals against the Bears. And the Bears just looked really bad on Thanksgiving. The Lions almost beat them, and I did pick the Lions to win there. I think the Cardinals are going to come in after, some time off and just come in swinging, totally dominate that Bears defense. My upset for the week, hard to really call it an upset, but we have the Patriots against the Bills, and I think the Bills are still favored there. So I'm actually taking the Patriots. I think they're the hottest team right now. I think their defense is going to really be able to stop Josh Allen because they don't really have a running game outside of him. And if the passing game doesn't get going, Bills have no offense. So pretty exciting there. As far as fantasy, we're sticking with DFS. As you can see on the screen, we got my lineup again this week for kind of what I've been thinking. I was just going to point out the 2 value picks I saw. Elijah Mitchell for the Niners against Seattle, only at 6,000. It's like that's almost a guaranteed start for me. And then Hunter Renfrow against the Washington defense without Chase Young. Derek Carr's got to throw to somebody, and I think Renfrow at 5,800 is pretty solid there. So those are my picks for the week. You can take them, you can hate them, but we'll see how we do.
Well, thanks for that. I wanted to give Ronnie a chance to give us his rundown, so take it away, Ronnie.
All right, guys, how we doing? Another week in the NFL. Can you believe it's 18 weeks season this year? I think Brady was pretty pissed about that. He's always pissed, but it works. He uses it for the end. It's like an energy thing. We're gonna do the picks today. Honestly, this may be the toughest week. I think this is the toughest week I've seen so far. This is a lot of big spreads, like a lot of favorites versus big underdogs, so it's kind of tough finding some value here, but I'm gonna go with the guys. Giants +5 at Miami. I got a lot of inside sources, very close relationship with Eli Manning, so he's been giving me some insights. We had a Zoom. He and I played Heads Up together. The game with the phone. We played Heads Up on the Zoom with him and the kids the other night. It was a lot of fun, and he was giving me some insights on what's going on with the Giants. He says it's looking pretty good. So we're going to go Giants +5. This is a weird one, but I'm going to go Falcons +11 at home against the Bucks. I don't know. It's like 11 points at home in the Falcons. It's hard to tell with the Falcons, but I like them plus 11. I hate betting against Brady, but I gotta do what you gotta do. And we'll go. We're gonna go Bengals -3 at home against the Chargers. That's another tough one, but -3 at home. I don't know. There's just not much I like out there this week. This is a tough week. Weird games. And I like Joe Burrow. But man, what else can we say about Aaron Rodgers? I mean, the guy, freaking, is just unbelievable. I got burned bad on that Rams game. I think I said like week 1, I'm gonna just bet the Rams every week, and I don't know if that's worked out for me. So the moral of the story is probably don't listen to my advice on this, and if you do, it's your fault. So don't come looking for me. All right, good luck.
Okay, well, we are back, and we have now reached the part of the show where we get to answer a question from one of our viewers regarding what's going on with the sports world. And today we have this one from Joe in Lompoc. And Joe wants to know if the Rams are going to make the playoffs. What do you think, Nick?
Well, they started 7-1, and everyone was calling Matt Stafford the MVP, and it seemed like they weren't going to lose a game. But now they've dropped 3 in a row. They're falling in the standings behind the Cardinals, and they're barely ahead of the Niners, who I think are going to keep the ball rolling. They seem to be clicking on all cylinders. I don't know what's wrong with that Rams defense, because they were top of the league last year. It's really going to depend. I mean, at least Stafford got the ball going a little bit better this week. But when you think about it, out of those 7 wins, 3 of them against the Jets and the Giants and the Texans, are just beating up on bad teams. So it's really hard to really evaluate them after some of these more recent losses.
Well, you're right about their recent offensive woes. They started out like gangbusters. Stafford was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And in the last few games, his play has deteriorated significantly, where now he's ranked like towards the lower end of the quarterback rankings. It seems like the Rams always want to pass the ball deep, and when they don't get the big play downfield, they don't have anything to fall back on. Having said that, I still think that the Rams are going to make the playoffs. They're 7-4 right now. I think if they win 3 out of their, get to 10 wins, end up 10-7, I think that should be enough. They get to play Jacksonville. That's a win. They play Seattle. I think the Seahawks, they're no good. I think they should beat Seattle. That's another win. Most important one would be at the end of the season, get some revenge against San Francisco. That would be big. But they still have a chance to play Minnesota and maybe beat them. So they still got a good defense. I don't think it's time to write the Rams off as far as the playoffs go.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot then. Who do you think has a better chance of making the playoffs, the Rams or the Chargers?
Wow, you did put me on the spot there, Nick. But I say that right now, I think the Chargers have a better chance of making the playoffs, only because of what I said earlier. They're in the driver's seat. They win all their games. They're in.
All right. Let's hope it's the case.
Well, we'll be talking more about the NFL playoffs as we get down to the nitty-gritty, but it's time for us to sign off. I wanted to thank everybody for watching, reminding everybody to comment, to like, subscribe to the show if they have an opportunity. Any Sports on the Spot questions you have can be submitted to our show at the Sports on the Spot show at gmail.com, or just ask in the comment section of our YouTube channel. Once again, thanks a lot, Rick. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see everybody next time.
Unbelievable.